Chapter 9, Writing Persuasive Messages. Whether you're convincing your boss to open a new office in Europe or encouraging potential customers to try your products, you'll use many of the same techniques of persuasion, the attempt to change an audience's attitudes, beliefs, or actions. Because persuasive messages ask audience to give something of value, money in exchange for a product, for example, or take substantial action, such as changing a corporate policy, they are more challenging to write than routine messages. Successful professionals understand that persuasion is not about trickery or getting people to act against their own interests. It's about letting audiences know they have choices and presenting your offering in the best possible light. In today's information-saturated business environment, having a great idea or great product is no longer enough. Every day, untold numbers of good ideas go unnoticed and good products go unsold simply because the messages meant to promote them aren't compelling enough to be heard above the competitive noise. Creating successful persuasive messages in these challenging situations demands careful attention to all four tasks in the planning step, starting with an insightful analysis of your purpose and your audience. In defining your purpose, make sure you're clear about what you really hope to achieve. The best persuasive messages are closely connected to your audience's desires and interests. To understand and categorize audience needs, you can refer to specific information such as demographics, the age, gender, occupation, income, education, and other quantifiable characteristics of the people you're trying to persuade, and psychographics, personality, attitudes, lifestyle, and other psychological characteristics. When analyzing your audience, take into account their cultural expectations and practices so that you don't undermine your persuasive message by using an inappropriate appeal or by organizing your message in a way that seems unfamiliar or uncomfortable to your readers. If you aim to change someone's attitudes, beliefs, or actions, it is vital to understand his or her motivation, the combination of forces that drive people to satisfy their needs. Once your situation analysis is complete, you need to gather the information necessary to create a compelling, persuasive message. Media choices are always important, of course, but these decisions are particularly sensitive with persuasive messages, because such messages are often unexpected or even unwelcome. For instance, some people don't mind promotional email messages for products they're interested in. Others resent every piece of commercial email they receive. Persuasive messages can be found in virtually every communication medium, from instant messages and podcasts to radio advertisements and skywriting. In fact, advertising agencies employ media specialists whose only jobs are to analyze the media options available and select the most cost-effective combination for each client and each advertising campaign. The nature of persuasion is to convince people to change their attitudes, beliefs, or actions, so most persuasive messages use the indirect approach. That means you'll want to explain your reasons and build interest before asking for a decision or for action, or perhaps even before revealing your purpose. However, in some instances, such as when you have a close relationship with your audience and the message is welcome or at least neutral, the direct approach can be effective. Encourage a positive response to your persuasive messages by using positive and polite language, understanding and respecting cultural differences, being sensitive to organizational cultures, and taking steps to establish your credibility. The pros know from experience that details can make or break a persuasive message, so they're careful not to skimp on this part of the writing process. When you evaluate your content, try to judge your argument objectively and try not to overestimate your credibility. When revising for clarity and conciseness, carefully match the purpose and organization to audience needs. If possible, ask an experienced colleague who knows your audience well to review your draft. Your design elements must complement, not detract from your argument. In addition, meticulous proofreading will identify any mechanical or spelling errors that would weaken your persuasive potential. Finally, make sure your distribution methods fit your audience's expectations as well as your purpose. Your success as a business person is closely tied to your ability to encourage others to accept new ideas, change old habits, or act on your recommendations. Unless your career takes you into marketing and sales, most of your persuasive messages will consist of persuasive business messages, which are those designed to elicit a preferred response in a non-sales situation. Within the context of the three-step process, effective persuasion involves 4 essential strategies: framing your arguments, balancing emotional and logical appeals, reinforcing your position, and anticipating objections. Many persuasive messages follow some variation of the indirect approach. One of the most commonly used variations is called the AIDA model, which organizes your message into 4 phases. First, attention. Second, interest. Third, desire. 4, action. Few persuasive appeals are purely logical or purely emotional, and a key skill is finding the right balance for each message. An emotional appeal calls on feelings or audience sympathies. For instance, you can make use of the emotion inspired by words such as freedom, success, prestige, compassion, free, and comfort. Such words put your audience in a certain frame of mind and help people accept your message. Many marketing and sales messages rely heavily on emotional appeals, but most persuasive business messages rely more on logic. And even if your audience reaches a conclusion based on emotions, they'll look to you to provide logical support as well. A logical appeal uses one of the 3 types of reasoning: analogy, induction, deduction. After you've worked out the basic elements of your argument, step back and look for ways to bolster the strength of your position. Are all your claims supported by believable evidence? Would a quotation from a recognized expert help make your case? Next, examine your language. In addition to examining individual word choices, consider using metaphors and other figures of speech. Beyond words and phrases, look for other factors that can reinforce your position. When you're asking for something, your audience members will find it easier to grant your request if they stand to benefit from it as well. Even compelling ideas and exciting projects can encounter objections, if only as a consequence of people's natural tendency to resist change. Anticipate likely objections and address them before your audience can bring them up. By doing so, you can remove these potentially negative elements from the conversation and keep the focus on positive communication. Note that you don't need to explicitly mention a particular concern. If you expect a hostile audience that is biased against your plan, be sure to present all sides of the situation. As you cover each option, explain the pros and cons. You'll gain additional credibility if you mention these options before presenting your recommendation or decision. If you can, involve your audience in the design of the solution. People are more likely to support ideas they help create. When you believe in a concept or project you are promoting, it's easy to get caught up in your own confidence and enthusiasm and thereby fail to see things from the audience's perspective. When putting together persuasive arguments, avoid these common mistakes: using a hard sell, resisting compromise, relying solely on great arguments, assuming that persuasion is a one-shot effort. Throughout your career, you'll have numerous opportunities to write persuasive messages within your organization. For example, when suggesting more efficient operating procedures, asking for cooperation from other departments, pitching investors on a new business idea, or requesting adjustments that go beyond a supplier's contractual obligations. In addition, many of the routine requests you study in Chapter 7 can become persuasive messages if you want a non-routine result or believe that you haven't received fair treatment. Most of these messages can be divided into persuasive requests for action, persuasive presentation of ideas, and persuasive claims and requests for adjustment. The bulk of your persuasive business messages will involve requests for action. In some cases, your request will be anticipated, so the direct approach is fine. In others, you'll need to introduce your intention indirectly, and the AIDA model or a similar approach is ideal for this purpose. You may encounter situations in which you simply want to change attitudes or beliefs about a particular topic, without asking the audience to decide or do anything, at least not yet. The goal of your first message might be nothing more than convincing your audience to re-examine long-held opinions or to admit the possibility of new ways of thinking. Most claims are routine messages and use the direct approach. However, consumers and business professionals sometimes encounter situations in which they believe they haven't received a fair deal by following normal procedures. These situations require a more persuasive message. The key ingredients of a good persuasive claim are a complete and specific review of the facts and a confident and positive tone that is based on your right to be satisfied with every transaction. Begin persuasive claims by outlining the problem and continue by reviewing what has been done about it so far, if anything. The recipient might be juggling numerous claims and other demands on his or her attention, so be clear, calm, and complete when presenting your case. Be specific about how you would like to see the situation resolved. Next, give your reader a good reason for granting your claim. Show how the individual or organization is responsible for the problem, and appeal to your reader's sense of fair play, goodwill, or moral responsibility. Explain how you feel about the problem, but don't get carried away and don't make threats. People generally respond most favorably to requests that are calm and reasonable. Close on a respectful note that reflects how a successful resolution of the situation will repair or maintain a mutually beneficial working relationship. Marketing and sales messages use the same basic techniques as other persuasive messages, with the added emphasis of encouraging someone to participate in a commercial transaction. Although the terms marketing message and sales message are often used interchangeably, there is an important difference. Marketing messages usher potential buyers through the purchase process without asking them to make an immediate decision. Sales messages take over at that point, encouraging potential buyers to make a purchase decision then and there. Marketing messages focus on such tasks as introducing new brands to the public and encouraging customers to visit websites for more information. Whereas sales messages makes an explicit request for people to buy a specific product or service. Everything you've learned about planning messages applies in general to marketing and sales messages, but the planning steps for these messages have some particular aspects to consider as well. First, assessing your audience needs. Second, analyzing your competition. Third, determining key selling points and benefits. And finally, anticipating purchase objections. Conventional marketing and sales messages are often prepared using the AIDA model or some variation of it. Here are the key points of using the AIDA model for these messages. First, getting the reader's attention. Second, building interest. Third, increasing desire. And finally, motivating action. The AIDA model and similar approaches have been successful with marketing and sales messages for decades. But in the social media landscape, consumers are more apt to look for product information from other consumers, not the companies marketing those products. Consequently, your emphasis should shift to encouraging and participating in online conversations. Follow these guidelines. First, facilitate community building. Second, listen at least as much as you talk. Third, initiate and respond to conversations within the community. Fourth, provide information people want. Fifth, identify and support your champions. Sixth, be real. And finally, integrate conventional marketing and sales strategies at the right time and in the right places. The word persuasion has negative connotations for some people, especially in a marketing or sales context. However, effective business people view persuasion as a positive force, a way to align their own interests with what is best for their audiences. They influence audience members by providing information and aiding understanding, which allows audiences the freedom to choose. As marketing and selling grow increasingly complex, so do the legal ramifications of marketing and sales messages. In the United States, the Federal Trade Commission and other federal, state, and local authorities can penalize advertisers that violate standards for truthful advertising and other regulations. All marketers need to understand these basic legal aspects of promotional communication. Marketing and sales messages must be truthful and non-deceptive. You must back up your claims with evidence. Bait and switch advertising is illegal. Marketing messages and websites aimed at children are subject to special rules. Marketing and sales messages are considered binding contracts in many states. And finally, in most cases, you can't use a person's name, photograph, or other identity without permission.